News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Roof Rescue. The now familiar sight of Logan City trash trucks throughout Cache County could be a thing of the past if Mayor Holly Daines follows through on her announced plans to withdraw from a long-standing trash collection contract with county officials. After years of cooperation in terms of environmental services between Cache Valley's largest governmental entities, city officials have now notified the Cache County Council that they want to bow out of that arrangement. Mayor Daines said in a brief statement to the Cache County Council that the city's contract with the county allows for either party to terminate with 1 year notice. There is a great risk to Logan if they continue to purchase additional equipment, hire new personnel, build new facilities, and expand operations only to have the contract terminated. She explained that Logan will continue to provide collection service for the next 2 years until the end of 2023, if necessary, to allow everyone to develop a smooth transition to alternative collection services. By everyone, Daines meant officials of Cache County and the Valley municipalities, to which Logan City currently provides trash, recycling, and green waste collection services. Daines explained that one of the primary motivations for the city's change of heart regarding its trash collection contract with the county is the Valley's growth over the past decade. She told county council members that currently 71% of their residential collection equipment is used for service outside Logan. There is no other city in the state that handles garbage collection for an entire county. KBNU News Time is 5:07. KBNU weather for tonight, partly cloudy, low near zero. Partly cloudy in the morning on Saturday, becoming sunny, high temperature in the mid-20s. Partly cloudy Sunday and lower 30s for the high. It's been a nice, beautiful day, but we've been in the deep freeze most of the day. Right now, 22 at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by U&I Furniture. Want to improve the look and comfort of your home? Check out all the possibilities at U&I. Update your mattress and sleep better on a therapeutic comfort top queen mattress. There's always a better buy at U&I, 28 West, 100 North, downtown Logan.
If you think it's expensive to hire a professional, just wait until you hire an amateur.
Why the heck is the roof leaking? Larry, you said you got it fixed.
I thought it was fixed, Donna. Everything was fine until it started raining.
Larry, that's the point of fixing the roof, is so we can actually live here when it's stormy outside.
This is David with Roof Rescue. Our experienced roofing team is tried and true and will fix your roof guaranteed. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free roof inspection. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
KBNU News Time is 4:08. Prosecutors are dismissing some of the evidence against a 43-year-old Wellsville man charged with sexually abusing 2 girls for years. Stephen Lambert was arrested last June and has been held in the Cache County Jail without bail. Lambert participated in a virtual hearing at 1st District Court Thursday afternoon. He was previously charged with 15 felonies, including 5 counts of aggravated sexual abuse of a child, 3 counts of sodomy, 2 counts of rape, and other crimes. Defense attorney Mike McGinnis previously filed a motion requesting the court throw out the evidence that was gathered during an interview between Lambert and police. He claimed the interview violated his client's constitutional rights. According to an arrest report, Logan City police officers began investigating Lambert after a woman reportedly being sexually abused by him while she was a teenager. She claimed he molested and raped her from the time she was 12 years old until graduating high school. As the investigation continued, a second victim came forward claiming she also was sexually abused by Lambert when she was 8 years old. A third victim and other individuals were also interviewed, providing information and corroborating the woman's allegations. Investigators claim the victims were all acquaintances of Lambert, who was considered to be a person of trust. The crimes occurred around 2007 to 2011. As part of the investigation, police interviewed Lambert. He reportedly admitted to having sexual relations with the first victim. He denied, though, having any sexual conduct with others. During Thursday's hearing, Cache County Deputy Attorney Griffin Hazard conceded that Lambert's interview was not conducted legally and violated the defendant's Miranda rights. The interview will not be used as part of the prosecution's case. Lambert did not speak during the 10-minute hearing. He was ordered to appear again in court Monday for a bail hearing and could still face up to life in prison if convicted. KBNU News Time is 4:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Local news and the best talk. News Talk KVNU.
If you're looking for your next pre-owned vehicle, buy it from a name that Utah has trusted for over 95 years. For generations, the Murdoch Auto Team has given Utah's pre-owned car, truck, and SUV buyers a comfortable, no-pressure buying experience. So go for the gold this February and get 1.99% financing for 72 months, plus no payments for 90 days, and a complimentary gift with every pre-owned vehicle purchase. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family at Murdoch Hyundai or online at MurdochHyundai.com.
1.99% APR. Must finance through GWCU. Not all buyers will qualify. See dealer for complete details. Offer ends 2/28/22.
Get your furnace fixed, call Gary Ricks.
Since we put that jingle together, everywhere I go, if people see my name and the logo on my shirt, they sing it to me.
In other words, being on the radio has helped you grow your business.
Radio is the quickest way to get a message out.
And what kind of success have you seen since you've advertised on the radio, Gary?
Our business is quadrupled.
Visit CacheValleyMediaGroup.com.
Helping you grow your business. Cache Valley Media Group. Helping your business grow.
Hey, this is Grace Gosted. I'm a singer-songwriter, and like many, I've been traumatized by years of bullying. You're ugly, you're stupid, you're gay, you're worthless. Bullying causes real harm and can result in severe long-term depression, anxiety, addiction, and even self-harm. I created the Black Box Project for anyone who has ever felt different for any reason. Go to theblackboxproject.org to help you take the first step to healing. You are not alone.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 a.m. and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. 4:13 on a beautiful Friday afternoon. Quite a bit of snow this morning, at least in parts of the valley.
Yeah, well, we were supposed to get an inch, but we got a bonus, another inch, so a couple inches. Very nice.
It was pleasant to wake up to, and you know these are these snowstorms coming to an end. This is the first year I think that I can honestly, sincerely say I hope not. I'm tired of shoveling snow. I'm tired of the snowblower. I'm tired of the cold. I'm ready for spring. I've already started thinking about what I'm going to plant and what's going in the trays, and I'm going to be planting those putting seeds in those trays next week. But we need the snow. So sincerely, I hope we have several more snowstorms between now and the end of March. After March, none. It's done at that point. If it's a drought, it's a drought.
Could we pencil in some mountain snows?
Yeah,
after March?
If it stays in the mountains, it can snow until June.
Rain here,
and
snow
that'd
in
be
the mountains.
nice, actually. Yeah. So, what was our height today?
Boy,
sorry,
I haven't even checked yet. It's 20, a big 2-3, 23.
That was the high.
Yeah, and well, that's what it is right now. So who knows? It might bump up to 24. We don't know.
We'll see. Fingers crossed. A little bit chilly out there.
We could heat up the thermometer, perhaps. I don't know.
Supposed to be up near 40 by Sunday, though. So,
woo!
Yeah.
Wow. Shirt sleeve.
It's going to be
windows rolled down.
Balmy, putting the shorts on. I love Utah weather. I love its unpredictable nature, but it is a known fact at this point. We do not have the snowpack that we need. We could, we focus a lot on snowpack, and our friends at the Utah Avalanche Center are one of the main sources here in Utah as far as snowpack in the northern region especially go. And one of them pointed out to me when I inquired about snowpack, some areas, we were sitting at 120, some parts of the state, 150% at the start of the year. And then it's just dwindled. That percent of normal goes down as you continue into the year and don't get snow. So a lot of parts of the state are down to 70-80% of normal already, just because there hasn't been a lot of snow so far in 2022. That's not the end of our water supply, of course, but it's the lasting water. That's why there's so much focus on snowpack. That was a question sent in by a listener. A listener wanted to know, why does everyone care about snowpack? It rains, right? Well, yeah, and rain can do a lot to fill up reservoirs and saturate the ground so that water in those reservoirs isn't seeping into the ground as much as it was last summer. So we could still have a really wet spring in June and then ease things a little bit. But without that snowpack, we're looking at water restrictions and drought conditions. I would say guaranteed at some point during the year.
Now, where were we last year this time? I think it was worse. It was worse
last year.
Worse,
yeah, much worse.
I mean, March 1st, the governor was talking about water rationing.
I think the drought designation started in April or May of last year. So we might make it to, say, July before a drought emergency is declared. But that's really, I think, all that will be different this coming year. It's definitely evident in the legislative session. There's a lot of talk there about water conservation. A lot of taxpayer money is going to be spent, both state and federal collected monies are going to be spent on infrastructure projects, on water projects. You've noticed that talk of reservoirs has kind of drifted a bit from the main stage. There are a few reasons for that. Options for new reservoirs are slim in a lot of areas of the state. There are a couple, as Cache County Executive David Zook told us, there are a couple of locations here in northern Utah that could make for, instead of one large reservoir, 3 smaller reservoirs with minimal impact, or at least that would be the goal, is minimal impact on the environment. But they're expensive. They take, it's not something you could have, if you really, really hurried, I guess you could have a reservoir ready by next spring. But it takes a while. It's not a quick enough solution. It's a it's part of the long-term plan, of course, to, anywhere that we can smartly and safely build a new effectively build a new reservoir. Those will be built, and the state is putting money away for that in a fund. But the focus this year has been to spend on direct infrastructure, as lawmakers have called it. So shoring up some of those reservoirs, revamping some of the older reservoirs so that they leak less and are more efficient. There's also a lot of money coming through the legislative session. We'll know exactly how much and where soon as that budget is finalized Monday or Tuesday of next week. And remember, they have to wrap up by Friday. So this is going to be a rush next week as those budget numbers get finalized and made public. But we'll have an idea on how much is going to be spent on various water projects. As Nathan Doggs told us yesterday on the show, speaking as a member of the Cache Water District, Nathan said, this $40 million for the Great Salt Lake, that's spent already. The check hasn't been written, but the bill was passed and the governor's going to sign it. It was passed unanimously. It's a good start, Speaker of the House Brad Wilson said, implying that this is, it's going to require more to get Great Salt Lake water levels back up. And, you have to remember that, you can't just take $40 million and go pay someone to fill the lake. It's not that simple. The way this $40 million, I hate to use the word slush fund, but that's basically what it is. It's minimal oversight, unfortunately. It's the way the House likes to do things. And it isn't a bill that, it's a bill that basically says we're setting this money aside for the Great Salt Lake for restoration efforts. And that's a good thing, but that's it. The bill doesn't say it's going to go here, it's going to go there. Here's how we can measure our ROI. Are we spending in ways that work? And as Nathan pointed out yesterday, there are some ways that they could spend this $40 million that could help the Great Salt Lake but hurt the Bear River area. There are ways they could spend this $40 million that don't do a thing long-term to help the Great Salt Lake and end up just being a waste of money, or in Hatch's giant pumps or something like that. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes. The bill creates a commission of sorts with some lawmakers on it, representatives of various industries, and environmental experts, scientists, and more. And they'll basically be in charge of putting together a report of some kind to say, here's how you could spend $40 million and actually make an impact without negatively impacting other water districts or other areas of the state. Specifically upstream here in northern Utah. So it's a serious thing, though. For most of us here in northern Utah, you see the Great Salt Lake. It's still there. Lawmakers got to fly over in Blackhawks. The Blackhawk pilots needed training hours anyway for flight time. And so they decided to combine this with lawmakers' focus on the Great Salt Lake. And they flew about 25 lawmakers got to fly over the lake. And I talked to a couple of them. They were shocked to see from above. If you've flown anywhere, you've seen this as well. But from above, you can see where the lake used to be or should be, and then you can see where it is, the shoreline, and it's stark. It's a noticeable. Now, critics have said, "Look, we've been trying to tell you this for years. You're just discovering it," and that's a fair criticism because a lot of folks have been trying to tell the legislature and governors, going back to at least Herbert, maybe even Huntsman, that this is a problem. We're taking too much water out upstream, and the Great Salt Lake is shrinking. Several years ago, the Utah State University researchers did a report a study on the newly exposed lake bed. And I think this was about 10 years ago. That's how long this has been a known problem. The report from that research concluded that it's just making the air situation in Utah even worse. This toxic dust, a lot of minerals in lake bed. And once it dries out and then the winds pick up, it just becomes dust in the air. Two immediate negative impacts of that. One, tying it back in, this becomes sort of a quickening spiral of negative. The dust in the air because of the lake is lower. There's more lake bed exposed. That dust in the air worsens our air quality. And then that dust in the air doesn't stay in the air. It comes down, even in the mountains, on the snowpack. These microscopic particles sometimes of dust are a darker color, so they are just a tiny bit warmer than snow, and the sun hits them, and they collect just a tiny bit more heat. They melt the snowpack faster. So there are a lot of negative impacts to this, to the entire state. The primary focus of what the House is focused on, at least in their $40 million slush fund, is industry. There are a lot of industries that depend on the Great Salt Lake, not just outdoor recreation, but some directly. But also, the notion is that the Great Salt Lake is part of what makes Utah, Utah. And so there's a ripple effect of that lake being here that boosts tourism revenue, boosts interest in businesses locating here in the first place. But also there's the environmental concern. Without the lake, things change drastically in Utah's environment in the northern half of the state. And so that is one example. A lot of the snowpack in the central area of the Wasatch Range around the Davis County area, a lot of their snowpack comes directly from the lake effect. without the lake there, that those storms don't produce quite as much. They drift on by and dump it closer to the Utah-Wyoming border. And so that is a concern. Again, I'm glad they're spending the money, but a listener asks after our conversation yesterday, how can we track this? Well, we don't know yet. The bill passed, and the bill says the money is going to be spent. What happens next is going to require some watchdogging, I think, from environmentalists, from water managers, water districts, average citizens. And that's just going to be one of probably 10 things coming when it comes to not only the state money, but the federal infrastructure money from that federal infrastructure bill. Fingers crossed we spend it smart. I mean that is basically what it comes down to. We probably have to do all of these things, especially if growth is going to be what it's projected to be. We're running into water challenges now. Double the population? That's unsustainable. So we're going to have to spend this money. It's going to come at a cost to taxpayers. It's probably at a certain point, I don't know when, but it's going to be something that leads to increased burden on the budget, which is going to lead to talk of tax increases, or at least elimination of tax cuts. And that's the reality on this. We live in a desert state. We've had the privilege of kind of just riding along and enjoying high quality of life here in Utah. And we've reached a bit of a threshold, combination of climate change, growing population, and the simple fact that water is a limited resource. Here we are. 753-5868. What do you think they should spend the $40 million on? We'll be back right after this.
When the bills from your accident pile up, it's time for you to consider professional legal counsel. Get the Bear, Berenson and Caldwell.
I'm Amber Kizzer. Berenson and Caldwell helped me get through an auto injury accident. It was not a situation I could have handled on my own. I needed an attorney because I was being harassed. With Berenson and Caldwell, I didn't feel like I had to worry about things. I couldn't deal with the pressure and the stress of it, and he took all that away. I would absolutely recommend them. I would get the Bear.
Visit BerensonLaw.com to instantly connect and receive a free case review of your injury. BerensonLaw.com.
If you have an aging loved one who could use a little extra help, you may wonder how much help is needed. Legacy House of Logan may be what you're looking for. Their different levels of care can accommodate your loved one no matter his or her needs. From daily tasks like dressing and bathing and medical administration to more advanced care for those with dementia, Legacy House of Logan offers all the comforts of home with a caring staff who really know how to take care of your loved ones. We invite you to stop by and see if Legacy House of Logan is right for your loved one on 1400 North in Logan.
This is Logan City Police Chief Gary Jensen. Scammers are continuing to target people in the Cache Valley. Fraudsters often threaten with arrest, withholding medical care for loved ones, or offer to sell or purchase items at discounted or inflated prices. Many of these scams often involve third-party gift cards or other money-exchanging services. If you receive an offer or are threatened like this with immediate punishment unless you comply, hang up and call the police to report it. Please do not become a victim.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. House Representative Dan Johnson welcomed Aggies to Capitol Hill today as part of morning floor time. We'll talk about that in a bit. Also joined by very special guests on the other side of the news, Amy Anderson and friends, coming into the studio here representing the Sunshine Terrace Foundation Board to talk to us about an event called, this is the actual title, I'm not being mean, the event is called I'm Not an Old Fogey. We'll talk about what this event is about. And
how do you spell Fogey? Is it
Fogey, or at least that's how they've spelled it.
I always wondered, yeah.
Fogey. So I'm Not an Old Fogey. It's an event coming up in March for elderly residents of the Valley. It's a creative idea. It should be a lot of fun, actually. I'm curious to see how it plays out, and they'll be here in a few minutes to talk about that on the other side of the news. Before we get to that, I asked listeners before the break there, talking about this $40 million slush fund that the legislature has set up for saving the Great Salt Lake. And this is one of the rare cases where I don't use the word slush fund as a pejorative, but as Nathan Dowgs presented yesterday on our show, it does raise concerns. If the money's spent not smartly. It's a waste of money. There are some ways that they could spend the money that would be maybe good for the Salt Lake, but hurt the Weber Basin area, or even the northern part of the state, the Bear River watershed area. It's and this bill doesn't really lay anything out. It doesn't lay out a specific process for all of this. It just says, here's this money. A commission will be put together. They'll make some recommendations on how this money should be spent with the goal of restoring the Great Salt Lake. Thumbs up on that. But how do we make sure that we spend it smart? That's going to be the question for the next couple of years on this fund. And as Speaker of the House, Brad Wilson, said this is just the beginning. He called this $40 million a good start. So I'm asking listeners, how do you think the $40 million should be spent? What would be the best use of taxpayer funds with the goal of restoring and preserving the Great Salt Lake, but also not hurting other water districts and water basin areas? What would you do? 753-5868. Mitch on the line with an idea. Mitch, your thoughts on this?
Well, no matter what we do, not one penny should go to St. George until they figure out how to do basic conservation.
It's funny, Mitch. That was my sentiment exactly when I saw this. If any of the $40 million goes towards St. George, where they're using 3 times the national average per person in water, I'm going to be a little bit upset. They've got some things they can try first, right?
Well, I mean, Arizona is drier than them, and Arizona doesn't use that much water per person. If they can figure it out, and I mean, y'all know you got to be a little brain damaged to live in Arizona when it's that hot.
It's, what is it, 110, 120?
I'm sorry, you got to be stupid to live there if it's that hot, but whatever.
No, I agree.
So if they can figure it out, what's St. George's excuse?
Yeah. It's, Mitch, this kind of ties in a little bit with what is happening with the House Bill 242 and the secondary water metering, secondary systems metering bill, where they're taking this pilot program and expanding it statewide. We haven't really talked about this, but there's a notion behind this that here in Utah, and I think it's true, here in Utah, we've lived kind of a life of luxury with water. Our water is highly subsidized. We don't actually pay what we probably should be paying for our water use. Each individual, each household, but also we don't really see a lot of our water use. And I think this idea of metering secondary water and then sending a report to people once a month saying here was your water use, I think it's a good start in that direction. I'm not advocating for the cost for a family's budget to take another hit as far as raising cost of water, but at the same time, I think that's what's wrong with St. George. Water is cheap. They have no concept of what it costs or what it could cost even, and
they're just spoiled about it. Is what it is.
Spoiled's a good word. I think we've all kind of gotten away with that, and this isn't just households. I want to point that out too while we're on this line of thinking. It applies to agriculture too. In agriculture, you all know, you're all going to get mad about this, but you all know there are some conservation efforts you have bypassed. There are ways you could use less water. There are. I know it's not convenient. But even something as simple as, I know a farmer here in just outside of the major cities here in the valley who, because of the drought last year, took steps to water at different times. And I think that's great. But this was the first time he'd done that ever. So we can all do something, right?
One farmer next to me, last couple of years, has buried all of his canal lines. So you've got less evaporation, less waste.
Sure.
But there's another farmer just down the road. There are he's got cement-lined ditches that there's cracks big enough that water comes pouring out of the mountainside every time he runs water down his ditch.
Sure. Now
that would be an easy fix.
Well, also, Mitch, that's stuff like that. I don't know what kind of an impact that would have overall, but if that would have a significant impact, I'm all for the $40 million Great Salt Lake Rescuing Slush Fund going to stuff like that. Grants for those in agriculture to fix cracked canals and things like that, or to bury them entirely. that would be a great use of the money.
Probably would be a good use for it because they just did the main canal through Tremont. They just redid the whole bottom of it last summer.
Sure.
Before they put water in it, just to smooth it so the water goes through faster, so it's got less time to evaporate.
Sure.
And I saw something like 10%, I think was what I was seeing, 10 to 12% less evaporation just from that process.
Sure. That's a
big difference.
We know it works. The state has spent a lot of money on doing this already. And so, yeah, something like that, putting the $40 million Great Salt Lake Rescue Slush Fund towards stuff like that, I think that would be really useful. And I know, they'll spend some on education efforts too. Maybe they'll use some granting process for those in agriculture to update equipment. That could make a huge difference too. Newer equipment.
Center pivots make a huge difference.
Oh, sure. A huge difference in water use. So hopefully.
But they also cost money to put in.
Yeah, they're insanely expensive. That's why most people haven't done this type of thing. But maybe through this $40 million fund, some of that cost can be offset, and maybe that would make enough of a difference that you would see an improvement. So, Mitch, we've got to get to
they did a lot of that up in central eastern Washington.
Yeah, they actually, and interestingly enough, they did it in a similar way.
Area.
They set up kind of a slush fund. They set up a fund for agricultural improvements, I think is what, or something like that. And maybe that's what we should do. I like it. Mitch, you're a smart guy. Appreciate you calling in. Sorry to cut this short. We've got to get to the news, but appreciate hearing from you. Others out there, if you have ideas for how this $40 million should be spent, love to hear them. We'll be back with Amy Anderson and guest in studio talking about an upcoming event called I'm Not an Old Fogey. This is being organized by some with the Sunshine Terrace Foundation, and it's a cool idea. We'll talk about it after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Jason, KVNU News, brought to you by Northern Steel Buildings. Yellowstone National Park captured 37 bison migrating outside the park and sent most of them to slaughter under a program that seeks to prevent the animals from spreading disease to cattle in neighboring Montana. Officials are aiming to remove up to 900 of Yellowstone's 5,000 bison this winter to keep the park's herds from growing and prevent the spread of the disease brucellosis. Yellowstone Bison Coordinator Tim Reed said Thursday that 27 of the animals captured over the past week were sent to slaughter. 6 will be held in quarantine for future relocation to tribal lands, and 4 calves were released. Legislation to enhance protections for gun makers, sellers, and weapons carriers during declared emergencies in Idaho is headed to the governor. The House voted 58-9 on Wednesday to approve the measure that alters the state's Disaster Preparedness Act by prohibiting the closing of gun-related businesses during emergencies. Governor Brad Little issued a temporary stay-at-home order in early 2020 because of the coronavirus pandemic. Some workers and businesses were declared essential and allowed to continue, including gun businesses. The new law would make sure they stay open under future governors. The legislation also prevents Idaho's concealed weapons laws from being circumvented. And the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has agreed in a settlement with environmentalists to decide by April 4th whether a rare toad warrants endangered species protection next to a geothermal plant being built in Nevada. The agency lawyer signed the agreement this week with a conservation group that has filed a related lawsuit to block construction of the Ormat Technologies Incorporated project about 100 miles east of Reno. The Center for Biological Diversity and a Nevada tribe won a court order last month temporarily blocking the plant, but the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals stayed that order on February 4th, pending full consideration of Ormat's appeal, and the company broke ground last week. KVNU weather brought to you by Roof Rescue. Their experienced roofing team is tried and true and will fix your roof guaranteed. Visit roofrescueusa.com. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind. Partly cloudy tonight, low near 0. Partly cloudy Saturday morning, becoming mostly sunny and mid-20s for the high. For the latest news, visit CashValleyDaily.com. We'll check Wall Street with Edward Jones next.
A building is just a building until it's your building. It's where you work, where you create, and where you store your valuable equipment. You take pride in your building, so make sure it's built right and built to last. Northern Steel Buildings will guide you from concept to construction. For your commercial, agricultural, or industrial steel building, visit northernsteelbuilding.com to see their quality work or call 435-677-7300. Northern Steel Buildings. Value from concept to construction.
This is Rochelle Hanks bringing you the Daily Financial Market Report on behalf of financial advisor Tron Arnold and Edward Jones for Friday, February 25th. Geopolitics remain front and center still for investors as Russia continues to relentlessly invade Ukraine, violating international law and inciting acts of war. Military action has remained intense, with Russia now moving closer to the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. Meanwhile, today we heard from the U.S. and European allies that they will impose individual sanctions on Russian President Vladimir Putin. An act some view as largely symbolic. Similarly, yesterday we heard from the U.S. and NATO allies as they enacted additional sanctions on Russia as well. Markets seemed to react favorably when President Biden excluded energy and oil markets from sanctions, as well as allowing Russia to remain on the SWIFT, Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications financial system, which also benefits European allies. In our view, while uncertainty remains elevated, we continue to see underlying U.S. economic fundamentals remaining resilient, which should support equities broadly over time. In addition, as inflationary pressures build, we continue to view equities as a key insulation for investors. U.S. equities closed higher today. The Dow closed up 385 points to 34,059. The NASDAQ closed up 221 points at 13,695, and the S&P closed up 96 points at 4,385. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 1.97%. In stocks of local interest, Thermo Fisher is up $9.66 to $549.83. Home Depot is up $3.41 to $316.65. Autoliv is up $1.05 to $92.05. Lowe's is up $5.77 to $219.18. Walmart is up $1.85 to $136.38. Nucor is up $9.15 to $130.05. Coca-Cola is up $2.34 to $62.85. Kroger is up $2.02 to $46.46. General Electric is up $3.83 to $96.37, and R.R. Donnelley & Sons is unchanged at $10.84. In commodity markets, the price of crude oil was down 48 cents to $92.33, and the spot price of gold was down $35 to $1,891.70. This has been today's Financial Market Report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Tom Arnold, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 1202 South, Highway 89 in Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact any of our 7 Edward Jones offices in Logan, Providence, and Smithfield. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
Dr. Josh Red, chiropractic physician, explains how Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
A lot of our patients end up having autoimmune conditions. This is where their immune system, rather than attacking bacteria, a virus, or other bad things, it starts to attack their own tissue. This can cause so many different issues and symptoms throughout the whole body. The biggest thing for us at Red River is to identify what's causing the autoimmune response to flare up. This could be intestinal problems, blood sugar imbalances, cortisol defects, hormonal imbalances, along with something as simple as dietary triggers and environmental triggers. One of the most common causes, too, when you have an autoimmune condition is you'll have inflammation throughout the whole body. Not every patient will have the same imbalances or the same triggers, and so we have to customize a very personalized treatment plan in order for these patients to feel better.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
Hey everybody, this is Ryan from My Mattress. I wanted to give you an update on Lewiston and their sleeping habits real quick. They're doing amazing. They're sleeping in style. They're buying more beds than they ever have, but there is a little confusion with the citizens, and they've hired a sleep doctor. And here are the questions they're getting asked. Are you drinking caffeine late at night? Are you going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time each morning? And do you have a mattress from My Mattress? Our invitation is still here, Lewiston. Buy a mattress from My Mattress today and sleep better tonight.
It's true, many of us spend more time thinking about what's for dinner than thinking about retirement. But if you think your retirement needs deserve more attention, we agree, and we'd like to help. We're Edward Jones. Together, we can give your long-term retirement strategy the attention it deserves. Contact your local Edward Jones financial advisor to get started today. Call 1-800-ED-JONES. Visit edwardjones.com or stop by any of the 7 Edward Jones offices in Cache Valley.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. You don't have to put them on. It's your choice. We were discussing headphones as we came back. Two guests here in the studio with us to talk about an upcoming event that I'm pretty excited about because you see this a lot in life, and you probably know someone, or maybe you are someone who maybe you're retired and you find yourself suddenly a little stir crazy, and you've got too much time. You're having a hard time even sometimes pulling yourself away from the daytime soap operas. We've seen various scenarios of this, all of us in our own lives. And there is a lot, as far as options go, to combat this. And we all know as well that staying active and mentally and physically is good for us, regardless of your age. And no one's ever too old to learn a new thing. In fact, mental health experts recommend you don't ever stop learning new things, regardless of your age. With all that in mind, an event coming up in March that I found out just now that I had mislabeled this event. I was reading from a promotion of the event, but I'm going to keep this title because I really like it. I said the event was called I'm Not an Old Fogey, but our good friend Amy Anderson here in the studio now explained to me that was actually just how they were promoting the event. It's not the actual title. Amy, I still love it.
I think well, it obviously got your attention, which is obviously the whole point of doing copy like that, right? So thank you for recognizing that it worked.
Well, it's so great because it does catch your attention, and it is, it's a tongue-in-cheek, it's a good-natured, it give you a chuckle kind of way to present this. But what you guys are doing, and we should introduce our other guest here as well. We have Amy Anderson with us. She is a Logan City Council member and is a member of the Sunshine Terrace Foundation. Joining us as well here in the studio, John Westinskow, who is a local artist. And that kind of sets the stage for what you two have teamed up on here. Tell us about the I'm Not an Old Fogey event that's not actually titled I'm Not an Old Fogey.
So the subtitle is I'm Not an Old Fogey, I'm an Artist. And I think the point of that was just to identify that no matter who you are, what your skill level is, everybody has a creative side to who they are. And the project came about actually because of funding from the Utah Division of Arts and Museums. They identified a grant opportunity where artists could go and do a training as well as organizations and then apply for a grant, a creative aging grant. And it's also partially funded by the Utah Commission on Aging, of which I'm a member.
Okay. I didn't
and
know
part of what they're doing with that is ensuring that it's available across the state through their virtual senior center. So this is not just something that's happening here in Logan, but it's happening across the state. So I know when we're here in the legislative season, we kind of always talk about where monies are allocated. This is one of the places where it's allocated that I just think is pretty incredible, that our state recognizes the importance of providing opportunity for seniors as they age. So that's really what it is we applied for a grant to do this 8-week class that John has graciously agreed to teach. But trainings across the state, they're for people 55 and older. They have to be sequential. They have to have a culminating event at the end. So we're going to be having a reception up at the Utah Art Museum at the Nora Eckel Harris. So the people's art will be presented there with the reception.
Oh, this is official.
It is very official.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and so I think the whole goal for us was just to help older adults achieve a unique potential that they may not have had before. And a subset of this as well is we really are trying to encourage caregivers to come. They may not be the people who they may not be the people with a lot of time on their hands, but they are people who have a lot of stress, who have a lot of giving to somebody else and less time perhaps to maybe focus on themselves and feel of worth and value just for who they are. They're really tied up in the role of caregiving. So we really tried to make sure that those individuals know about the class so that they can come and participate, because really arts, they help you relax, they fight depression. Being involved in arts can actually lower your hypertension. So it can be a skill versus a pill, which I always think is super important.
And we should point out, you don't have to be good at it.
No.
It's just doing it that is therapeutic.
One of the terrific
because
things
I'm not
about
good at it.
is simply that you can start any place. If with mathematics or something, you need to start from step 1, step 2, step 3.
Sure.
With art, and it's a real myth and a stereotype that I taught kids for years and years. Well, I'm not talented. I don't have any relatives in my family. As near as I can tell, there's no genetics involved in art. And so a lot of these people, I'm assuming, probably have no background, and that's fantastic. Because we can come in and we can just get going, and they can learn about it, and they can go whatever direction they'd like from that point.
I love this. You use the word myth, and the promotional material for this event, which runs every Wednesday, right?
Correct.
Through March. This is, in the promotional material, Amy, you use the word ageism. And so taking those two, myth and ageism, two things that really frustrate me. We're all sort of taught that you reach this point in life where maybe it's retirement, maybe it's after retirement, maybe you have an arbitrary age in your mind, 75, for example, and that's when you just stop. You just sit in front of the TV. You're old. You're not supposed to do things, and that really is a mentality that a lot of us adopt voluntarily as we age. And the second one, and I have two pet peeves: the frog will jump out of the boiling water. But also, you can teach an old dog new tricks.
Absolutely.
These are two commonly repeated things. You cannot. The frog won't sit there and boil. But specific to this conversation, when you hear that all the time, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Absolutely not true. And using dogs as an example, still, they love it. We're like that more than we like to admit, right?
Absolutely.
We like to learn things and explore things and experience new things. As we age, maybe it gets a little harder, right? But we shouldn't stop.
And also too, as you age and you do retire, you actually have more time to devote to that, to try new things, to explore things. And I think ageism isn't just society looking at people and deciding whether they're of worth and value and stereotyping them, but I think a lot of older adults have self-ageism, where they look at themselves and say, well, no, I'm past that time, or why should I try? And so I'm super excited, looking at John's lesson plans, just some of the ways he's trying to encourage seniors to just look into themselves and kind of be their best self through art.
Sure. Yeah, the title of the course is Self-Portraits, or Soul Portraits, rather.
Oh, really?
And the reason for that is people at that age have got lots of experiences, lots of things to draw on, and it's not representative. We're not going to try and do a portrait of themselves, but it's going to be built with collages and colors and how do those things represent their feelings and emotions and past experiences, and how are they going to bring that together?
Very cool. So
you want to be 55, don't you, Jason? You want to
do,
show
actually.
up.
I have two. I get frustrated when we have the Makerspace people in. They always have a 15 and under, and you guys always have a 55 and older, and I'm in between the two. I miss all the cool events. How does someone get involved, though?
So it's pretty simple. All they have to do is call Shannon Erickson, who is the education coordinator for the Nora Eccles Harrison Museum of Art. And her phone number is 435-797-0182. They can just leave a message for her. If you're not in a place you can write that phone number down, just call the museum and ask for Shannon Erickson. And she'll just take your name and information. And the class is going to be held on Wednesdays from 1 to 2:30 during March, and then through, I think March is a five Wednesday month, so I think it's 5, and then the first 3 Wednesdays in April. It's being held at The Works, which is part of Sunshine Terrace's campus. So it's our outpatient therapy building, and that address is 209 West, 300 North. So we're doing this in coordination with the museum, but the event itself is being held at Sunshine Terrace. So should be pretty fabulous.
And then it wraps up with sort of an exhibit, right?
Their final projects. It'll be about an 18 by 24 panel, and it'll have hopefully or at least a piece of their life story on there, and they'll get to talk about it and have an artist statement so people can kind of read a little bit about it to help understand it and interpret it.
That is very cool. And the exhibit portion, that final event, will be open to the general public.
Yes, that'll
right?
be up at the museum. And in conjunction with this, too, we actually have a second grant that is for our residents of Terrace Grove, and an artist named Dana Worley, who is a glass fusion artist, is doing that for our residents.
Wow.
So you have to be living at Terrace Grove in order to do that class. We started that one this week. And again, that will be part of the culminating event at the museum. And we've added another layer in that Maria Ellen Hubner, who is a local photographer, is coming and taking photographs, documenting both classes, and also engaging her students to come and take pictures. Because that, I think, to me, that intergenerational piece is going to be really neat to have her students, who are of all ages, but come and see older adults being creative, thinking about their past, incorporating that into their art. So hopefully as they age, they'll be inspired to continue to be creative.
That's very cool.
We're so good at what we do. We
No,
just figure
really,
out
this
a way.
is-
Like,
I'm
how
excited
do you?
about
How do
this.
we engage in partnership? How do we engage
It's
people
creative.
intergenerationally? I'm so excited that the state provided this opportunity, and especially that people like Dana and John were willing to participate in this as well.
That's and for you, John, as a local artist, I'm assuming you approach this when you put the curriculum together for this course, this multi-week course. You're approaching this a bit from experience, right? How has creativity and art affected you in your life as far as keeping life exciting?
Big time. I mean, I grew up in Carbon County, and so you have to understand down there, if you want to be an artist, that's like saying you want to be a Martian or something.
Pariah.
So it really didn't fit in. But yeah, and working with kids all these years has been just fantastic, because what we're going to do with this is a lot of it's teaching the creative process.
Okay.
And so how do you be creative? How do you talk about it? What is art? It's creating new things. I mean, to be creative, you want to create something new. Well, limited experience. We can't create something brand new that's never been existed on the planet before.
Sure.
But within the group we're working with, it's going to be something new. And a lot of it, again, one of the elements is they're going to be interacting with each other, looking at each other's work, talking about each other's ideas as they put things together. And I've discovered creatively, what goes on inside my head is one thing, but once I say it and it goes back out and comes back in my ear, I get to interpret it a little bit different way, and especially if somebody else sees it and talks about it. And so I love to have critiques. I'm a little bit wary of that word because it has kind of a negative...
It sounds mean, right?
connotation, but a critique is just looking at people's artwork, commenting about it. What do you think? It isn't necessarily negative at all.
That's an experience people who take part in this course will get as well. They're all going to be doing this together.
Correct.
This isn't just one individual in the spotlight with everyone staring at what they're working on. This is an entire group that will move through this process together.
That's actually part of one of the goals of the grant was you had to ensure that you were building in that social interaction, because again, as you pointed out, a lot of older adults self-isolate or are just isolated because they no longer have work or all those other outlets. So the social interaction that John was just talking about is an integral part of the entire Lifetime Arts program.
That is, this is such a, I mean, it's a creative way to use creativity. For those out there listening, maybe there's probably someone listening right now that is thinking, well, this is interesting, but it's not for me. What do you say to that?
I say it's fantastic because the creative process interconnects with everything. We mentioned before the show about cooking. The same process applies. What if I add this ingredient or that ingredient, or what if I do this or change it, or whether you work with old cars, or whether you sew, or whether you even your own whether you get dressed in the morning is a creative process.
Sure.
It's an art process, deciding what to wear.
Especially as we age, right?
But I think, yes, everybody can do it. And I think that first step can be scary, of something you haven't ever tried before. It's not quite like jumping off of a cliff, but it is a little bit nerve-wracking, especially if it's a room of people you don't know. John is really nice. I can attest to that, so you shouldn't be afraid of him. He's not going to be a mean teacher. But, just be willing to take that step forward. And if not you, well, maybe there's someone else you know. Like, you could always come with somebody that could give you that support that you might feel like, oh, I don't know, maybe,
Sure.
But we are trying to keep it to a small group, but we have room for many, and we really hope
That is
that
very
people take
cool.
advantage. And, as I said, just give Shannon Erickson a call up at the university. One piece I did forget, although this is funded by a grant, there is a nominal $25 fee for the course.
Sure.
To help
For
with supplies and to ensure that people are making that commitment. But if anybody does have an issue with an inability to pay that, we will certainly work with them and find a way to cover that cost.
Very cool. I'm not an old fogey. I'm an artist. Not the title of the event, but how it's being promoted. I love it. Thanks again to our guests, Amy Anderson of the Sunshine Terrace Foundation Board and John Westinskow, local artist who will be teaching this course. It starts next Wednesday. It will happen every Wednesday throughout March and halfway through April at 1 p.m. at The Works at the Sunshine Terrace building. I've linked to some of the details on our Facebook page, and stay tuned to the movie show in hour